because
Sure, I really have no problem with that, Rachel. I think that you're problematic, and I think that you have
I'm problematic.
Yeah, and
oh my God, you're problematic.
I don't think that a lot of what you're saying is based in any history and fact. So yeah,
it is based in history and fact.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take you on 1-to-1. So you want to climb down the list because do you want to talk about the Equal Pay Act? Do you want to keep going?
I said is.
Do you want to go on to that? Do you want to talk about the 19th Amendment?
Listen, you crazy bitch! Shut your fucking mouth and listen to me. If you want to have,
we're not going to do that. We are not going to do that. I'm so sorry, but we are not going to do that.
This gentleman in the corner box here would be Big Papa Fascist. Used to be known as Big Papa Fascist. This is Andrew Wilson, everybody, from The Crucible on YouTube.
Where?
He is a Christian nationalist. I would consider him to be a childlike debater.
Are you
welcome to the panel, sir?
Andrew?
Well, I mean, how would you know? It's not like we're going to do a debate where you don't just mute me the whole time. Give me a break.
Oh my God, he's already starting.
Well, Andrew, are you a theocratic fascist?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Do you like Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire?
Yeah, I think he has a lot of good takes.
He describes himself as a theocratic fascist.
Yeah, he's just trolling, though.
I don't think so. I think he means it.
Well, let's start with what you think a fascist is.
Okay.
What is it?
What is a fascist? It's someone who insists on nationalistic policies, will take a small minority group and use them as an outgroup to create a nationalistic impulse. That's generally a fascist.
So FDR?
I would not say FDR.
I don't understand. He was quite the nationalist, wasn't he?
Who did he create a minority outgroup to oppress?
Didn't he oppress black people?
Not in the way that he made them. If we destroy them, we have a successful... a hallmark of fascism in a big way is to create an outgroup that is supposedly a giant threat to your nationalistic impulse, who is actually generally less than 1% of the population. That's happened in every single one.
Well, I don't even think that by that criteria you could even say Trump was a fascist, because who's he oppressing? That's 1% of the population.
Less than 1%.
As an outgroup. Yeah.
That would be the immigrants. That's
not less than 1% of the population, dude. What are you talking about?
The ones he's deporting? Absolutely.
No. That's not less than 1% of the population. Are you crazy?
1 million people? 11 million people of a country of 330 million?
That's still not 1%, is it?
33 million would be 1%. So 11.
Wait, I'm sorry. Hang on. Let's make sure I got this right. You think immigrants make up or illegal immigrants only make up 1% of the U.S. population or less?
Well, the other portion that you could be looking at would be the LGBTQ.
Okay, that's not less than 1% again.
Absolutely.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's at least 2%. At least.
So you would make an outgroup to be deliberately attacked from these people and think that's a good thing?
What? How did you get that from what I just said?
Well,
I'm going off of your criteria here. You said that they pick up a portion of the population that's less than 1% of the criteria of being fascist. What does that have to do with me?
With you? I thought we were discussing the nation. I didn't know you were the center of the discussion.
No, you're asking me to give you some sort of definition for the things you believe. That's my point.
You asked me to define fascism.
Yeah, so you got to explain to me who these people are getting oppressed for less than 1%.
Slow it down, Andrew. Slow it the fuck down, Andrew.
Nobody's speeding the fuck up, bro.
No, you said, let's get a definition for fascism, and now you're telling me that I need to give you a definition for fascism for what you asked, and that's my question. That's not fair.
I don't even know what you're talking about now, dude. What are you even talking about?
So do you describe yourself as a theocratic fascist?
I already said no multiple times.
Okay.
But I actually know what fascism is. That's probably why. So
would you describe yourself as a fascist?
Tell us what you think fascism is then.
Well, fascism, which would be represented by the fasci, you could look at perhaps some people who describe it wouldn't just be Gentili, by the way, but essentially what you're looking for is
authority man.
You're actually looking for there being.
Man. What is fascism authority, man?
I'm trying to tell you. Do you want me to or no?
Get to it then. Come on, land the plane, bro.
Yeah, so anyway, you would be taking the body of the state, and basically you'd be nationalizing the body of the state, and it would be working in unison with the head of the state, which would be represented by the fasci. That's what that means.
Yeah, you'd also have to reject democracy and individual freedoms. I think you missed that in centralized power.
Nope, you could have a democratic fascist state.
No, I don't think those two things make sense, right?
Well, whether you think so or not, there's nothing contradictory about the two things.
That's an absolute contradiction.
No, it's not a contradiction.
Does everybody in the state have
tell
to
me how
believe
it's tell me how it's a contradiction.
Does everybody in the state have to believe in the fascist government?
Does everyone in the state have to believe in the fascist government? You mean believe it exists or follow its orders or what?
Well, appreciate its ideology.
Well, I think everybody in the United States has to appreciate the United States ideology. So, yeah, I think that people would generally have to have some sense of patriotism in a fascist nation, I would guess.
That would be untrue. I would think that there are certainly people in the United States that don't appreciate our Constitution.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think that the push used to be that they did. That was a general public push. It was to get people. That's why we did the Pledge of Allegiance and things like that, right? That was the point of it.
If everybody is not under the same flag of fascism, if everybody decides they want to do things differently, if they want to have some sort of different form of executive in the country, then you can't allow them to vote, right?
You can't allow them to. I'm trying to follow what you're asking me. Can you ask me again?
You said you can have a fascist democracy. I'm asking you how that works in a system where you allow people free thought.
How it works, and I still don't actually understand what you're asking me. In a system that has free thought?
Yes, people that can vote and vote for the people that they believe in, and something that may be against the actual ideology that the government is purporting.
The same way it happens right now. You could vote in or out people who are in a member of a fascist government.
Okay, can you vote anybody else? Can you vote a third party in? Can you vote a Green Party in? Can you vote a socialist in?
I mean, there may be rigorous rules about who you could vote for or not vote for, but you could probably still vote.
So you couldn't vote for a socialist. You have to vote for a fascist.
Well, I mean, right now you have voter laws on who you can or can't vote for, who can even make it on a ballot.
I'm asking about your system.
Yeah, but the system would not be contradictory, even if it were the case that they had certain parties that you could only vote for. That would be reflective of the same system we have right now.
That is incorrect.
No, it's not correct. Do you have to be on a ballot to get voted for?
We can vote for whoever we want. We can put whoever we want on the ballot.
You could vote for whoever you wanted to in a fascist nation too, I suppose. Okay. But so what? It doesn't mean that they would get anywhere.
Well, if a Marxist gets most amount of votes in a fascist system, does that Marxist become the leader?
Probably. And let me ask you this: inside of our country, if a fascist gets the most amount of votes, does that fascist become our leader?
Yes.
So you could vote in fascism.
We're seeing it right now. Yeah,
so you can vote so you can vote in fascism inside of this republic, right?
No. Wait, Andrew's contradicting himself.
There's no contradiction.
No, Andrew just contradicted himself because he just said 2 minutes ago that you may be limited in who you can vote for.
You could be,
and you're like, oh, you can vote for whoever you want to. It's like, so
no, that's not what I'm saying. You're asking me about potentials inside of a system that I'm not even advocating for. You're just asking, would it be a contradiction inside of a fascist system to have voting? The answer is no. It wouldn't be a contradiction. They don't negate each other.
It would be a contradiction. I'm sorry. I'm going to challenge.
No, it wouldn't be a contradiction. Why would it be a contradiction?
Hold on. Excuse me. Thank you. I will answer you.
Was Hitler voted in, ma'am? Was Hitler voted in?
I'm sorry you don't like hearing a woman speak.
No, actually, he was appointed.
He wasn't?
Andrew.
No,
he wasn't voted in?
He was appointed.
He
was appointed by Hindenburg.
All right, Vader.
Excuse me. Just
sorry.
Thank you. So fascism and democracy are fundamentally incompatible. We know that. Don't try to gaslight. So the power structures in fascism are centralized and authoritarian, right? Democracy is decentralized and the power is shared. So tell me how those two things can be congruent.
Well, it would be the same exact way it can be congruent inside of a place where you had kings. You could have democracies which voted in kings.
Okay, cool. So tell me what the core features of fascism are.
So you're going to be looking at the body of the state being nationalized. That's going to be the first core. The second general, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It's authoritarianism.
No, it's not. Listen, authoritarianism as you would describe it, would describe every government entity on planet Earth. They're all authoritarian.
No, it's a.
Then what
it's
is authoritarian? What is it?
It's a centralized system of power. It's a rejection of democracy.
We don't. We have a centralized system of power in the United States.
No, we don't. No,
yes, we do.
We have a body of people that are voted upon by the people, dude. Like I don't know why
we might have a centralized form of power here soon.
Andrew's arrogance is a problem.
This is so crazy.
This is so crazy, but
we're gonna fast forward. Hey, Andrew,
okay, now we're going to fast forward. No, I don't want to fast forward. I want to I want to finish this conversation.
Yeah, I know.
Stop spurging out, lady. Do you want to have the conversation?
Do not do that. Do not do that. I won't. I'm not.
Or what? You're going to mute me like we all know you're going to?
I'll just
you're all heroes when it's a 4-on-1.
Wait, stop.
There he goes.
I'll just mute. I won't mute you. I'll just
4-on-1. Yeah, so you're gonna boot me.
Just wants you to boot him.
These are all just my friends that have been wanting to talk to you. We've talked about you before, so I just.
Well, then why don't you guys chill out and we'll actually have the conversation?
I agree. That's why I stopped. Wait, that's yes. That's why I stopped because I want to go one at a time here. Let Andrew finish the answer that he's giving. I know that he tends to be long-winded sometimes, so I might ask him to be a little shorter or a little more concise. But other than that, you. Feel free to ask.
Anyway, a contradiction, so that you know, is A and not A. Okay? That's what it is. A and not A. You can have some form of limited democracy and voting inside of a fascist society, inside of a communist society, inside of even a monarchy. They're not contradictions, not A and not A. You can have both of those things. Now, how that system would look, you could have a million different variables for how it could look. But what that has to do with them being incompatible is beyond me.
Okay, yeah, it's incompatible. The core.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you can just assert stuff.
So you won't let me finish. Thank you. I'm sure you're used to that. But the core features of fascism, I was asking that question. So you said nationalism. That's number 2. Number 1 is authoritarianism. So go ahead.
According to who?
According to the definition. So what's
according to whose definition, though?
So it's going to be interesting.
Oh my God.
It's going to be interesting when you name number 3, because number 3 is what we're seeing happen right now, and that's the glorification of the military. And
whose definition?
So that is the definition, dude.
Well, the definition, according to who?
Do you have a different one? That is my
Yes,
definition.
I would go off of the tenets of Giovanni Gentile, who was basically the architect of fascism.
Yeah, cool.
So
go ahead.
So can you tell me then where you're getting this definition so I can follow along with you?
Yeah, dude, I'm getting the definition from my brain, from what I know.
Oh, okay. So the source is you.
Absolutely.
You're the source? You're the source? You're the source?
Dude, don't even try to do that. See, so when you can't
source, I made it up. That's your source. You made it up.
So then when you can't go through them, which is funny because 3 is militarism, which we're seeing play out right now, and then 4 the suppression of opposition, right? So censorship, propaganda. The other thing that we're seeing in government right now.
Yeah, why should I believe that this is a definition of fascism?
Right, so go ahead.
Since it's just your definition.
So please, I'm sorry. What was your definition and where?
I'm going off of Giovanni Gentile, who is widely respected as being a person who was the architect of fascism itself.
Okay. And
who are you going off of?
I told you who I'm going off of.
You, right? You're going off of you?
Scholars. All of the scholars that I've read collectively and have come to this conclusion and I've known to be true. And this is the fucking core feature.
So your source is you.
Yeah, you have one.
Yeah, you're your source.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm going to appeal to the architect of the ideology before I appeal to you made it up.
Go ahead.
So the actual source that she's referring to is the Webster's Dictionary of what fascism is, and then the actual tenets of that, like what that looks like in reality, that is off of experience, and then I assume the scholars that she has studied. But just because she has not brought that source the way technically you have does not mean that the point is invalid.
Yes, it does. Her source is that she's making it up.
All right.
No, that's her source. Her source is it came from her brain by her own admission. It came out of her brain.
Steamroller.
Stop, Vader. Stop.
Why do I have to stop? I haven't hardly talked.
Because that's true. He hasn't hardly talked, to be fair.
I don't want to go. I don't give a fuck. I don't want to go down that sidetrack here. I don't want to talk about CS. I want to talk about Andrew. So you're going to say that Gentile was the architect. Mussolini was the one that actually described it in full and put it in practice, right?
Well, it depends on which. It's complex because you have Franco's Spain, which could also be considered a fascist society as well. But some people don't consider it to be that. And the reason for this is because there's a dispute over whether or not under fascism there has to be appeal to tradition. I've seen this argument now probably a half a dozen times from fascist theorists. Some believe that the entire plan by Mussolini was he wanted to go back to kind of like the old Roman Empire or old Roman imperial way. And that was his big push, and that needs to be included as a tenet of fascism. But under Franco's Spain, that was not the case, and so they just argue that Franco's Spain wasn't fascist, but clearly it would fit all the criteria she just laid out. So it's not really as cut and dry as just saying, I don't like that thing, so it's fascist. This is an actual
what about you?
political theory.
That's fine. What about you? I mean, Gentile said that it was a form of socialism. Do you believe that?
Yeah, I think that fascist theory came out of communism for sure.
Okay. And what did you say your first tenet would be considered?
My what?
The first tenet. What do you think the first tenet of fascism is? Again,
yeah, I think the first tenet I would say would have to be the nationalization of the body of the state.
Are you making that up, or is that
no?
Gentile?
I'll even explain it from a historic concept. So, what was going on?
Is it your historic concept? This
is according to Benito Mussolini and Giovanni Gentile and their rationale for fascism. Was that the large? Do you want to hear the answer or don't you?
No, I probably don't.
No, you don't. Yeah, I know, because you're illiterate. You're historically illiterate. So the thing is like, look, what was going on is large.
I am going to mute you right now because I'm not going to allow you to do that on the panel. I'm not going to allow you to personally attack anybody or call them names. I'm not going to, especially not a woman.
Yeah, I knew you were
I know how
mute
much
me,
you love
dude.
women. Yeah, I'm
Give me a break.
I'm going to mute you.
I was in the middle of giving her the answer she asked for.
I understand. I fucking understand. You're going to shut up. I don't care if you're here or not. Honestly, it doesn't make a damn.
You guys have a wonderful evening. I know that you lose.
God.
Do you want to have the convo or don't you? Like, I'm here to have it.
If you're here to have it, then you're going to have it. Then you're going to have it without attacking people on the panel.
Then have the people at least show the same respect I'm showing them.
I don't know.
How did CS?
Yeah, nobody's called you a name.
So I was in the middle.
Name yet.
I was in the middle of answering her question when she cut in and said, "I don't want to hear the answer to the question I just asked you." You think that's respectful?
What'd you say after that?
I said, "Of course not, because you're historically illiterate."
No, you said
that's,
you're
by the
illiterate.
way, that's not even a personal attack. That's
illiterate.
not even an ad hom.
No, you said you're illiterate.
Historically illiterate.
You said you're illiterate, and then
qualified it with historically illiterate. That's what I meant.
You corrected yourself. That's what I'm asking you not to do. Just don't attack a person.
Okay. Well, say what you're going to say. So let me respond. I'll respond to this. They were trying to prevent large trade syndicates from swallowing small trade syndicates. That was one of the core things that Mussolini was trying to stop. And that was why they nationalized industry, was to prevent that from happening, because under communism, that was going on, and they couldn't do anything about it. So, I would say it's a core tenet of actual fascism.
So you believe that the state should control all industry?
I'm sorry, how do you get from a descriptor to an ought? Me describing a historic event, how does that mean that I'm advocating for said system?
Because you gave Gentile as the reason why you're a fascist, or the good.
I never said I was a fascist ever. You're just making it up.
Oh, you did.
You're literally just making it up. You just made it up.
You didn't say you were a fascist?
No, that never happened.
You've never called yourself Big Papa fascist?
Yeah. Okay. Do you know that people have Bloodsport debate handles that say Superman? Does that make them Superman?
I don't know. You were pretty proud of your handle.
Does that make them Superman, sir?
I don't know, but you were pretty.
You
proud
don't
of
know
your
if
handle.
it makes them Superman or not.
I don't know if Superman.
I don't know if
exists.
it makes them Superman or not. I'm going to change my handle to Wolverine, and then I expect that you're going to treat me like a member of the X-Men.
Awesome. I would suggest that you are the type of person that would be considered a fascist. It may not be in the Gentilian way, maybe more of a Mussolini type of way, but maybe more of a modern way.
That's the same way. You're talking about the same thing.
It's not. I'm not.
It is
the same thing. No,
it is the same thing.
No, it's not, because I think you're trying to reform fascism and what it's designed to do right now. I've been watching you and all the little. Christian
I know exactly.
Run around. I've been watching you and all the Christian nationalists, little baby Christian nationalists running around trying to take power away from everybody, including women, or more so women than anybody else, but certainly minorities as well.
I don't know why you're just making stuff up. Show me an example of this.
I'm not just making stuff up.
Show me an example.
I wasn't talking about you, but I was well, we can talk about Donald Trump if you want. Trying to consolidate power in the executive branch. And
every president,
where he gets to make
every president has consolidated power in the executive branch. Every one of them.
Incorrect. That is incorrect.
Name one that hasn't.
Name one that has.
I just told you all of them have since Washington. The first thing Washington did was he consolidated power, raised the militia, and then went and got a tax so that he could pay for the war after promising he wouldn't do it.
California and fucking George Washington. Let's talk about today.
What does that have to do with anything?
Before the Constitution as well.
What does that have to do with anything? Every president has consolidated the power of the executive branch.
He wasn't a president.
George Washington wasn't a president?
Not at that time, no.
What?
When the militia
George Washington? No. When he fought the Revolutionary War, you're telling me he was the president?
He called up, when he was president, he called up the militia to collect a tax. The whiskey is called the Whiskey Rebellion. Look it up.
The Whiskey Rebellion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand.
So before.
Go ahead.
That was before the Constitution, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the point here, Andrew?
My point is that every single president has done. Yeah, go ahead.
Not to mention that, like, this president has openly supported the unitary executive theory. This president also is trying to consolidate administrative agencies underneath the purview of the executive, which are delegated congressional authority. So tell me how he is not, or how another president has done that.
Okay, so didn't Obama want to nationalize healthcare?
Nationalizing healthcare, that's underneath that's a state power as well, considering that a lot of that is delegated.
But he wanted to federalize it, right? He wanted federal regulation.
He wanted to federalize it, but ultimately, was that done through Congress?
Would that have consolidated more power in the hands of the government?
Well, did he do that through executive order, or did he do that through Congress?
He did try to do multiple things through executive order when it came to nationalization of healthcare. Yes,
yeah,
he could only do. He could only. Hang on, dude. Do you want me to answer or not? Yes, he was trying to nationalize healthcare. My question to you is this, because that's not in dispute. Would that give the federal power? Would that give the federal government more or less power?
I think it's in dispute that he was trying to nationalize healthcare.
Yeah, that's
you
what's
think it was
here. Not necessarily.
He didn't put forth a single payer system.
Well, and I'm also curious,
because he could, dude. Because he couldn't, not because they didn't want to.
Oh my God! What do you know? He wasn't consolidating power.
What?
Well, there you go.
What are you talking about?
Hold on, I'm curious about something. Him introducing universal health care to America. Which tenet of Gentile fascism was that?
I didn't say what we're arguing about right now is whether or not all presidents have tried to reinforce the power and consolidate power of the executive branch. I would argue that they have.
Right, you're trying to make this claim to then back up your claim that was somehow reinforcing power back into the position. If that's the case, that's fine. And
it is the case.
I'm curious. That's great. So how is that move doing anything to, one, provide power back into individualized presidential power? And again, where does that fall under the Gentiles tenet? Which one?
Yeah, so when you're talking about consolidation of power specifically, you're moving it back to the government away from the states, or you're moving it away from the people. Do you agree with that? That would be how government organizations would consolidate some sort of power structure?
I think removing the people's ability to change or switch out the person trying to do that would be a much harsher move.
Yeah, but that's not my question.
Okay.
Can you answer the question I asked you?
I think we need to go back to, because Andrew, I really think that it's important that we talk about the key tenets, right? I told you the key tenets of fascism from my understanding. What are the key tenets of Gentiles? Please inform us.
Yeah, let me pull them up here for you.
Oh, you don't know them?
And I mean,
I'm sorry. Why would there be an expectation that I had these memorized?
Because I just gave you my definition. You're like, that doesn't align with Gentile. So I don't know.
Well, it doesn't align.
I don't know why you
hang on.
When you don't know. When you don't know.
Wait.
I'm sorry, Andrew.
This is ridiculous. You're saying. You're saying that I can know that you're saying a definition of a word that's incorrect, even if I can't verbatim give it to you without looking it up?
You don't know what you're talking about. That's the point.
Oh, I see. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I told you
I
verbatim
need to
from my
know. I
brain.
need to
You
know
said,
Giovanni
hold on.
Gentili's
And you were like-
entire
you were like,
fascist
hold on,
playlist that is written
Gentili's,
in
when
order for
you
me
were
to
like-
talk about it.
Yeah, Andrew,
What
yeah,
the fuck?
yeah, you're
Oh,
a
okay,
fake, dude.
yeah.
Yeah, you're a
Okay,
fake. I'm so sorry
okay,
that
lady.
you're being exposed.
Yeah, okay, lady.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
and I'm
okay.
sorry that it's coming from a woman.
What's
I'm sure you hate
what's the
that.
First Amendment of the Constitution?
The First Amendment? Freedom of
Yeah,
fucking
verbatim. No, verbatim. Give it to me verbatim.
I don't have to fucking
Then don't
give it to you
fucking talk
verbatim.
to me about the Constitution ever again, lady.
Holy crap.
You don't know it by heart? You don't know it by heart, lady? You didn't know that?
Go ahead and
You
interrupt.
didn't know it by heart?
Hello.
You can't
Mute
talk
him.
about it ever
Hello,
again.
hello, hello,
You can
hello.
mute him.
Hi,
You can mute him if you're freaked out
I'm
like
here
that.
now. Okay, I'm the moderator, so we're gonna all take a deep breath. Okay, and we just need to get back to having a constructive conversation, if we could, please and thank you.
May I ask a question? Andrew, you said that you do not ascribe to fascism. So what political ideology do you ascribe to? I think that's a great
He
point
doesn't
to
know.
start.
He's looking it up. He's looking it up, Vince.
Wait.
Just like you're looking up the First Amendment?
Don't.
Yeah, why? How come you didn't know? How come you didn't know? How come you didn't know the
Andrew.
exact language off the top of your head, but you talk about the
Because
Constitution?
I didn't claim to.
What about the
When you
Second
claim
Amendment?
to-
Oh, so why do you ever talk about the
And I don't-
Constitution?
I don't
Then never
claim
talk
to,
about
but
the
when you
Constitution
claim up
again
here-
until you
when
memorize
come up
all
here
of
and
it.
you
Oh
claim-
my god.
Never talk about it again until you memorize
Hey,
it,
Andrew.
lady.
Hey, Andrew. I
Never.
don't-
Hey, lady.
That's
Hey,
fine.
lady.
Hey,
Never talk
sir.
about it again, lady, unless you
actually,
memorize it.
little
Never
boy.
talk about it.
Hey, boy.
I can't hear that.
Hey, lady.
All right,
Yeah.
all right.
Hey,
So
lady.
I don't
Okay,
have to.
all right.
Hey,
No, no,
lady.
Can we
No, no,
please
this is the
stop?
point that
Can
I-
everyone please stop? Can everyone please stop? Please.
No, because he's
the
a
love of
fucking
God.
idiot. And he thinks he's fucking smart
CS.
because he has a good fucking mic.
Yeah. Smart, and you're
CS,
dumb.
Stop. Oh god. Fuck
Whoa,
you, man.
hey, dude.
What?
Fuck you.
Dude,
I'm
that's
just
such
gonna
a
say
bitch
fuck
move
you.
to
She's-
do right there.
I mean, I don't think we necessarily have to debate feminism. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
No, but I know that's
Hi, guys.
you like to talk about feminism, yeah?
Listen, you guys don't need to be so terrified. I'm actually a super nice lady.
Well, we all know that.
I'm not even sure who you are. People in the comments were saying that you were Andrew's wife, so that's where I made the connection.
Yes, I am Andrew's wife.
About
welcome
being
to the panel.
scared, Rachel. Like,
Okay.
I mean, we were just,
Well,
we were just trying to
CS
plan how
sounded
we were
like she
gonna
was
do it.
having an existential crisis at the thought of having to talk.
We're
to
not
me,
off to
so-
a good start here since you just interrupted me, but we can let's pick a topic. Let's go.
Okay, well, I mean, we could talk about what exactly it was that got CS so upset with Andrew, or we could talk about feminism if she thinks that my book is like evil or something. What do you guys want to talk about?
Yeah. Well, so I'd ask you though. So what? And I don't know too much. I'm sorry. I didn't see it on my bookshelves. So what was your book about?
Well, that's funny. 'Cause when somebody mentioned it, you were like, "Oh God, that horrible woman in that horrible book," and now you're like, "Oh, I don't know anything about it." But I'll give you a quick rundown. It's just the actual history of women's liberation, according to professors and other actual historical sources, including feminists themselves. That the version of women's history that most people have learned in women's studies today is actually completely incorrect and astroturfed. A lot of the history was left out of the textbooks over the decades, and so I added all that stuff back in to give more of a full picture of how it actually happened and what myths have been perpetrated about what life was like for women prior to the 19th Amendment.
Oh, so I'm glad that you wrote in that women weren't allowed to have their own bank accounts until the 70s. Weren't allowed to vote until I don't know what year. Yeah. You put that in there, I'm sure.
Okay.
And how did that?
Let's go one at a time. Yes, I did. Sure, let's go one at a time. So first we'll talk about the bank accounts. Do you know why women weren't allowed to have bank accounts until the 70s? I'm guessing you would say it's because evil patriarchy wanted to put their boot on the neck of women and enslave them, right?
No.
Or could there be a more rational explanation for why that was the case? What do you think?
I'm sure you're gonna wash this in whatever fucking paint you want to. So go ahead. Why don't you do that, and then I'll challenge.
Sure.
that.
Sure, the reason is because only men were allowed to be held liable for the financial support of a family, and women were not allowed legally to be held liable for debts. However, that does not mean that they did not have access to money or credit. They did. So your husband could open a bank account, say at Bloomingdale's in New York City. He could add you as a user on the account. You could go to Bloomingdale's, you could do the shopping. But if the bill didn't get paid, the only person who could be held legally responsible was the man of the house, because it was his legal responsibility to support his wife.
Do you think that's wait, what was the law that said he was responsible to support his wife? What was that law?
It depends, because all of these laws, when we're talking about them, are regional and local. It depends. It varies a little bit. But it was just, there was a very
Can you tell me
broad...
one? Can you tell me one
Sure.
of the laws?
Sure. I have a poster that I post all the time. It's a law from New York in the late 1800s. It was an anti-suffragette poster, which, by the way, there was a much larger membership of women in anti-suffrage groups than there were women in pro-suffrage groups.
I don't need the gish callot.
Right. So their reasoning, their reasoning was that according to the law in the state of New York, prior to, it is actually much farther after the 19th Amendment passed, that only the man could be held responsible for the debts of the family. You couldn't take a woman to court and sue her for debt. It was a law in the state of New York.
Yeah, because she couldn't have a checking account, right? She wasn't allowed to hold her own money. Is that correct?
That's correct. So it
would make sense that the law can only apply to the man, since the man was the only person allowed to hold that money, right?
But that doesn't mean women didn't have access to money or capital. Let me ask you this: Do you think women weren't allowed to own things back then at the same time?
Well, I guess that would pertain to the will of the husband, I suppose, right?
Nope. There were women who owned land and property at the same time that this law was in place. So
handed down or bought?
Either one. It depends again on the time and place. There were some places that some women couldn't own land and others could. Some women could inherit land and others couldn't. But this is what we're talking about here is the framing. You guys frame it as though women were being denied something, when really the case is that they had access to money and property and capital and credit most of the time. It's just that they couldn't have it in their name in some places. In some instances, there were states where you could have a bank account, and women did have bank accounts if they weren't married.
Rachel, can we talk federally then? If you're going to say, oh, well, it was okay for some places and then not for others, that's not fair.
We can't talk federally because that's not how the United States works. We don't have federal laws about...
That's absolutely how the federal government works. What are you talking about? Federally. If you want to talk federally, yes, we can talk federal rights. So I'm sorry, but when was it okay for men to grape women? When did we put a law against that?
You are a walking billboard for repealing the 19th because you don't understand that.
All right.
Divorce laws are by the state. Divorce laws go by the state, ma'am. There's no federal marriage law. There's no federal divorce law. That's not how the law works.
I'm sorry that you don't
screaming
understand.
at me.
I'm not
Calm
screaming.
down.
I don't know why you think I'm screaming.
Calm down.
Do you know when it was not okay for men to grape their wives?
It was never okay for men to grape their wives. There was never an enshrined right to grape. That's another myth.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because that was 1994. It was 1994, and it was the Violence Against Women Act. That was signed.
Well, that's not true. You're wrong. That's not what that law said. There were men that were prosecuted for.
This is
sexual assault has always been illegal.
Okay, all right, hold on.
This is why I'm going to have to fucking mute you, because you won't allow anybody else to speak. I need you to allow her to speak as well, Rachel.
So, Rachel, in 1994, it was the Violence Against Women Act, and that was signed into law, and it was addressing domestic violence and sexual assault. So it specifically said that women were not allowed to be graped by their husbands. Before that, there was nothing federally put into place. So go ahead and tell me before that why it was okay.
Sure, I will. Grape and sexual assault has always been illegal in this country. It's always been illegal. Point to a place in time in the United States where grape or assault of any woman was not illegal, ma'am.
Up until
The violence against women, no, that's not true.
You just
misframing
asked a
it.
question. You just asked a question. Let me answer. Up until 1978, there was not a single case that existed in the history of the United States of America of a married woman taking her husband to court for rape. Not once. Not one existed until 1978.
And then also, so Rachel, so we're going to talk about more things. When was sex discrimination in education enacted? So women being able to go to college, women able to get an education. So when do you think that was? You can unmute yourself. I don't know if you know how to use the button.
I invited her to unmute as soon as I got done saying what I was saying.
All right, so I'm going to fast forward because that was...
No, we're not going to fast forward. You asked me a question. I'll answer it. First of all, you skipped over the last one because you lost, because I proved that sexual assault's always been illegal. But the second thing is women in this country have always had education, and they've had more educational privileges than men. If you go back and look since we started keeping records in 1790, women have had higher literacy rates and higher graduation rates in high school than men since the beginning of record keeping. Okay. Women have always been allowed to go to college. There were just some Ivy League and other institutions that, just like they have now, had certain requirements. Those are private institutions. They're allowed to have private requirements. Women have never been denied access to education. That's bullshit. This whole thing is misframing. You people, what you do with this subject is you frame everything incorrectly. You say women weren't allowed to do this, but they were. They were allowed.
So what are the numbers, right? So if we look at women and men historically throughout history enrolled in college, like what would that be? What do you think?
Women have been outnumbering men in higher education since the early 1980s in this country. But women have always. It is not. Women have enjoyed more higher education in this country. Yes, they hold the majority of college debt right now, and they earn more degrees in college than men do right now, and that's been the case since the 80s. Yes. And on top of that, like I said,
categorically false because
it's not categorically false.
Yeah,
look it up.
Okay,
Google it.
Hold on. Okay, hold on, please. Hold on. So in the 17th and 18th centuries in America, male literacy rates were significantly higher than female literacy rates. For example, in 1776, an estimated 80% of men in New England were literate compared to 50% of women. In the 19th century, the gender gap in literacy began to close during the 19th century. And in present day, the current literacy rates for men and women are very close, with approximately 99% for both genders, reflecting negligible differences in basic literacy skills. Apologies. So, and I can share that is from the American Experiment .org and Statista. And Rachel, we're just going to keep climbing down the ladder. We're just going to keep going throughout history. So I would ask you, so when was the Civil Rights Act to prohibit employment discrimination based on sex? So when was it?
Okay, if you guys want to go through these claims one at a time and compare sources, we can do that. But we're not going to do what CS is doing, which is just try to run down a list, and then I say, here's what I'm saying. Somebody else says, no, that's wrong. We don't check facts. We don't check sources. We just skip ahead because she knows that I just kicked her ass and refuted her. So she's like, let's go to the next thing. No, if you want to do this formally,
no idea what you're saying, but if you feel like
do you want to set this up formally? Do you want to set this up formally so that we can compare sources?
I really have no problem with that, Rachel. I think that you're problematic, and I think that you have
I'm problematic.
Yeah, and
you're problematic.
I don't think that a lot of what you're saying is based in any history and fact. So yeah.
It is based in history and fact.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take you on one-to-one. So you want to climb down the list? Because do you want to talk about the Equal Pay Act? Do you want to keep going?
What I said is...
Do you want to go on to that? Do
you want to talk about the 19th Amendment?
Listen, you crazy bitch! Shut your fucking mouth and listen to me. If you want to have,
We're not going to
if you
do
want to
that. We are not going to do that. I'm so sorry, but we are not going to do that.